Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I want to talk about something that is, I think, almost, you know, every mother experiences, especially sensitive, intuitive, spiritual mums, and that is the constant choice between fear and love. Because motherhood has a way of bringing every fear we've ever had to the surface. Fear for our children, fear of getting it wrong, fear of judgment, fear of the future, fear that we're not doing enough, fear that our children will struggle, fear that the world feels heavy sometimes. And when you're a sensitive mum, you often feel everything even more deeply. You can sense energy, you can feel shifts in your child emotionally, you can pick up on tension, and you may even feel the collective fear of the world around you. And one of the biggest spiritual lessons I continue to learn as a mother is that every moment gives us an opportunity to choose love over fear. So it's not perfectly, it's not all the time, but consciously. And something I really want to explore today is the understanding that love and fear are energetic opposites. When we are truly in a state of love, fear cannot exist in that same moment. Think about that for a second. When you are fully connected to love, deep compassion, gratitude, presence, connection, fear softens. Because fear, it contracts us, whereas love expands us. Fear tells us that we're unsafe. Love reminds us that we are connected. There is something incredibly powerful when we can begin teaching our children too. So today I want to gently explore what this actually looks like in real life as a mum, because it sounds beautiful in theory, but how do we actually apply it when our children is, when our child's melting down, or when we're overwhelmed, or when anxiety starts to creep in? So let's dive in. Fear often sounds like control. One thing I've noticed is that fear often makes us want to control everything. We want certainty, we want guarantees, we want to know our children will be okay. And honestly, that's because we just love them so deeply. But fear can quickly sneak into parenting in ways that we don't always realize. It can sound like, but what if something bad happens? What if they struggle socially? What if I fail them? What if they fall behind? What if they're too sensitive for this world? Fear can make us overthink every decision. It can make us hyper vigilant. It can make us constantly scan for problems. And energetically, children, they feel that. And it's not because we intentionally want them to feel it and we're doing a bad job or anything like that. It's just because children, they're so connected to our nervous systems and our own energy fields. Especially these sensitive children, these rainbow children, these neurodivergent children, these children who are energetically open. And they often absorb far more than we realize. And sometimes what they need most is not for us to have all of the answers, but just for us to return to love. So society thrives on fear. Something else I've become really aware of over the years is how much fear exists in the world around us. Fear is constantly being fed to us through media, through headlines, through social media, through outrage, through division, because fearful people are easier to control. When people are scared, they disconnect from themselves. They stop trusting their intuition. They become reactive instead of conscious. And the media absolutely knows that fear keeps people watching, clicking, consuming, and staying emotionally hooked. Fear grabs attention. Love creates peace. And this is why protecting the energy of our homes matters so deeply. It's why becoming conscious of what we consume matters, because children absorb collective fear too. They may not fully understand the news or conversations happening around them, but they absolutely feel the energy behind it. This doesn't mean we ignore the world or pretend difficult things don't exist, but it means we can choose not to live in a constant state of fear. We can choose awareness without energetic collapse. We can choose love, grounding, compassion, connection, and trust. And that is incredibly empowering for children to witness. So, what choosing love actually looks like? Choosing love doesn't mean pretending hard things don't exist. It doesn't mean bypassing emotions. It doesn't mean forcing positivity. Choosing love means asking, how can I respond from trust instead of fear? That's the shift. And sometimes it's tiny. Sometimes choosing love looks like taking a deep breath before reacting, softening your tone, holding your child instead of immediately correcting them, trusting your intuition, listening instead of controlling, allowing yourself to slow down. Sometimes choosing love means choosing compassion for yourself too, because mums can place enormous pressure on themselves. We want to parent consciously. We want to regulate ourselves perfectly. We want to break generational cycles. We want to hold a beautiful, peaceful energy all the time. But love also says you are human, you are learning to, you don't have to parent perfectly to be deeply loving. And honestly, I think children learn more from watching us return to love after difficult moments than they do from us never struggling at all, because that's not teaching them any life skills. So, teaching our children love over fear, one of the most beautiful things is that we can teach our children is how to return to love when fear arises. So, not suppressing fear or not shaming fear. Fear is a biological thing, it keeps us safe, but being able to move through it consciously, because fear will naturally come up sometimes. And instead of staying trapped there in our body, we can help children shift back into a place of safety and love. And that is the natural biological human experience where, yes, we have fear. Fear is what keeps us safe in our environment. We need to be able to recognize what could potentially harm us. But once we have moved through that and resolved it, being able to come back down into that rest and digest state is so important. And a lot of us, adults as well as children, are going, staying in that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn state and never moving back into the rest and digest state. It's that sympathetic, parasympathetic shift that we find so difficult. And it's very common for us these days. So, some things that we can kind of ask our children can say, what would love do right now? What would love say right now? You can place your hand on your heart and breathe with me. It's beautiful for co-regulation. Or even just simply reminding them that you are safe, you are loved, we can move through this together. Children learn emotional regulation through co-regulation first. So when we are able to move our own nervous systems, they are able to learn that as well. And it all becomes, they're feeling that they're in a more safer space. And it's something that I've personally noticed is that when children feel deeply, emotionally safe, connected, and seen, fear loses a lot of power over them. Because love is expansive. Love reconnects us to ourselves. Love reconnects us to God, spirit, the universe, whatever language resonates for you. Whereas fear separates and love reconnects. It's that unity, oneness, the unified consciousness that is just so incredibly powerful. So, there have been absolutely moments in motherhood where fear has overtaken me too. Oh my gosh, especially when my children were younger and before I was on this spiritual path, I was full of what ifs. How do I fix this? How do I fix that? And it was a minefield of just going from one anxious moment to the next, one fearful moment to the next. So I have absolutely felt that. But, you know, reflecting back, there's also energetic overwhelm that I didn't know I was experiencing at the time either. So moments where I had absorbed too much emotion, and it's something that I've really had to learn, is that fear creates contraction in the body and in the energy field, whereas love creates openness. And when I move into fear, I notice I become more tense and I overanalyze, I lose presence and I become emotionally drained because I too have, like these beautiful, sensitive children, have a really open, porous, energetic field. And it's very easy for me to absorb other people's emotions and energies that are in my environment. So I really empathize with these beautiful children. But when I can return to love, even if it's just for a moment, I find that everything shifts, it really softens. And not because the external situation magically disappears, it's because my energetic state shifts and changes. And the children can actually feel that immediately. And children respond so deeply to energetic safety. They really resonate with that. They can't explain it, but they feel it. So let's talk about some simple practical ways you can actually apply this in everyday life, because, it's quite wishy-washy saying, yeah, let's just do love over fear and it's all going to be great. Well, actually putting it into practice, can be, yeah, we just need some practical tips. So the first one is pause before reacting. So when emotions are high, pause immediately before you respond. Even one conscious breath can shift your energy. Ask yourself, am I responding from fear right now or from love? That single question can completely change the interaction. The second point is ground yourself daily. Sensitive mums like me, like you, need grounding, especially when we're all absorbing energy easily. So easy things to do is you can go outside barefoot or sit in the sun, or even just visualize roots coming out from beneath your feet into the earth. If you're inside, it's raining, you can't go outside, and just connecting in with the earth that way. Because fear grows louder when we are energetically ungrounded. So really being able to ground in can really shift that state from fear to love. And we can ask Mother Earth to help us with that when we are grounding. The third point is protect your energy. So not every emotion around you belongs to you, as we know, and not every emotion your child experiences needs to become yours either. So as empathetic mothers, we can accidentally merge energetically with our children. And I have learnt this too. Love always allows us to support our children without drowning in their emotions. So you can hold loving space without carrying everything. And that is just as simple as putting up your own energetic barriers. Well, not even barriers, it's more of boundaries. And this is my energetic space, and visualizing in your own way, whether you use Archangel Michael or a white light or the earth energy, of really just being able to empathize and feel for other people, but not actually energetically take on those feelings. There's a difference. And the fourth point is to be conscious of what you consume. If you're constantly consuming fear-based media, your nervous system absorbs that energy, and children feel the emotional frequency in the home too. It's okay to step back from the constant news cycles, and it's okay to protect your peace. It's okay to choose what enters your energetic field. And I'm not saying to not be aware of world events or what's going on in the world. it is important to be able to be aware of what's going on in the world and sending it love. That is from a place of peace and empowerment. And I think that is extremely important because that is unity, oneness, consciousness is sending love. So sometimes love, can mean that we're not choosing fear, if that makes sense. So the fifth point, return to the present moment. So fear usually lives in the future, but love lives right here, right now. Often when we return to the present moment, we realize in this exact moment, we are safe, our child is safe, we can breathe, and presence is incredibly healing for children. So yeah, your child doesn't need a perfect mother. And I think this is an important thing to say. Your child does not need a perfect spiritual mother or perfect mother, whatever that may be. You do not need to be calm every second of the day, because that is just not realistic, and that is not being human either. We need to be able to feel all of our emotions. I mean, that's why we're here, to have the experience and be able to feel everything that comes through for us emotionally, process it, and come out through the other side. But you also don't need to have every answer. That's okay not to have all of the answers and know what to do exactly all the time. We are all learning. But what you truly need is to be a mother who is willing to keep returning to love again and again. Being a mother who is willing to apologize, to reconnect, to trust, to grow. That is so incredibly powerful. And an example that comes to mind that I thought of, a really kind of, it's not a drastically fearful moment, but it was just recently, it just sprang into my mind then, when my daughter came home and she wanted to be accepted into the school choir, but not all kids could get accepted. And she really, really wanted to be a part of it. And my initial feeling I started with was anxiety. I felt what she was feeling and it was worried. I was like, oh, what happens if she doesn't get in? And then I consciously said, okay, let's send love to this situation. Let's send love to the choir selection. I send gratitude for the opportunity for her to be a part of the choir. I send white love forward into the situation. And this shift, it helped both of us going from, anxiety, being worried, being scared, all of the what ifs. When what ifs come into it, that's a good sign that you need to send some love to the situation. So I went from, what if this, what if that, to it's done. And I felt this in my heart chakra. I really did. So if fear has been feeling a little loud lately, please know that you are not alone. The world can feel really overwhelming sometimes, and parenting can feel really overwhelming sometimes. But love is always available to return to. Even tiny moments, even imperfectly. And every time you choose love over fear, you help create emotional safety, not only for your children, but within yourself too. Teach your child that fear does not have to control them, that they can return to love, connection, grounding, and trust, and that is one of the biggest gifts that we can have in our lives. And it's also one of the greatest gifts that we can give our children, this next generation. So, thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope this episode resonated with you, and I'd love for you to share it with any other mum who you may feel needs a little bit of a reminder about this now. And if you would like deeper support for your sensitive child, you can explore my children's rainbow recalibration sessions through the links below. Follow me on social media, all of those links are below. So until next time, trust your intuition, protect your peace, and keep choosing love. Sending so much love to you and your little one.